The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and everyone in the grand marble lobby turned their heads. It wasn't unusual to see nervous faces rushing in for an interview at Kingsley Enterprises, the city's most powerful company, but this was different. Standing there, holding a slightly crumpled folder in her tiny hands, was a little girl, no older than 9, wearing a faded pink dress and shoes that were clearly too big for her. Her hair was tied in uneven braids, and her eyes, large, dark, and uncertain, darted around the room before she took a hesitant step forward. The receptionist blinked twice, unsure what to say, before the girl walked up to the desk and whispered, "Excuse me. I'm here for the interview. My mom, she's sick, so I came instead. Before we go any further, if you believe that kindness can change lives, that second chances matter, and that the smallest act of compassion can rewrite someone's destiny, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Let's keep spreading stories that remind the world to care." The receptionist froze, speechless. People nearby tried to hide their curiosity, pretending to scroll on their phones, but the sight was too unusual to ignore. A child coming for a job interview? The CEO of Kingsley Enterprises, Alexander Kingsley, was known for being ruthless, a man who built his empire from nothing, who didn't tolerate lateness, excuses, or weakness. No one dared joke around with him. And yet, this morning, fate had decided to bring him something he'd never faced before, a little girl carrying her mother's resume in trembling hands. Her name was Emma. She had stayed up all night beside her mother, watching her cough and shiver in their tiny apartment. Her mother, Grace, had worked as a cleaner for years, trying to find a stable job that paid more than just enough to survive. When she saw an open position as a personal assistant at Kingsley Enterprises, she had applied, hoping it could change their future. But that morning, her illness worsened, fever, weakness, and pain made it impossible for her to leave bed. Still, when Emma saw her mother cry quietly, whispering, "I'll lose the chance, we needed this so badly," the little girl made a decision. She put on her mother's best dress, the one her mom wore for church, and packed the resume carefully in a folder. She found enough coins in a jar for a bus ride, then set off, not realizing how tall the buildings would be or how scary the world could look when you're so small. All she knew was that her mother needed help. By the time she reached the top floor, her heart was pounding so loud she could barely hear the receptionist calling for security. But before anyone could act, the door to the CEO's office opened. A tall man in a sharp suit, early 40s, with cold gray eyes and the calm authority of someone who had forgotten how to smile, stepped out. Alexander Kingsley looked at her, his expression unreadable. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice deep and commanding. The receptionist stammered, "Yes, sir, she says she's here for an interview." The little girl turned toward him and, clutching the folder tighter, said softly, "Yes, sir. My mom's sick, so I came instead. I know she really wanted this job." There was a brief silence, one that felt like the whole world had stopped breathing. The CEO stared at her for a moment that felt eternal. Then, to everyone's shock, he said, "Come in." Inside the office, the floor-to-ceiling windows cast golden light over polished wood and leather chairs. The city looked endless from up there. Emma sat on the edge of the seat, legs dangling. Alexander leaned back, studying her like a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. She spoke before he could ask anything. "My mom's name is Grace Miller. She's really good at cleaning, typing, and helping people. She works hard every day, even when she's tired. But she got really sick this week and said we might lose our home if she doesn't get this job." He frowned slightly, looking down at the resume in her small hands. "And you came, to help her?" Emma nodded. "I thought maybe, if you met me, you'd see how hard she tries. She always says everything she does is for me." Something inside him shifted. He hadn't heard words like that in years. Somewhere in the back of his mind, memories stirred, the small apartment he'd once lived in, the sound of his mother coughing, and the way she used to whisper, "Don't give up, Alex. Someday, things will be better." He had buried that part of himself long ago, under layers of success and cold ambition. But this little girl had somehow found the key. Still, the businessman in him resisted. "Emma," he said gently but firmly, "you know children can't apply for jobs." She looked down for a moment, then said, "I know. But maybe you could just talk to my mom later? She really needs this chance." Alexander stared at her. Most adults came begging, pretending, flattering, but this child came with pure honesty. No tricks. No manipulation. Just love. He sighed quietly, pressing a hand over his chin. "Tell me something," he asked, "why is your mom the best person for this job?" Emma's face brightened a little. "Because she never gives up. Even when we didn't have food, she said everything's going to be okay. She makes people smile. She works harder than anyone. And she's really good at making coffee. She says it helps people start their day with hope." That last line made him chuckle, something rare and almost foreign to him. The sound startled even himself. He stood, walked to the window, and looked down at the city far below. The walls he'd built around his heart were starting to crack. He turned back and said softly, "Emma, what if I visit your mom today?" Her eyes widened. "Really?" "Yes. I think I need to meet her myself." She smiled for the first time, a pure, radiant smile that seemed to bring light into the office. She stood up quickly, nodding eagerly, and said, "She'll be so happy, sir." "Thank you." Later that day, Alexander Kingsley did something no one in his company could have imagined. He drove his sleek black car to one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city. The air smelled of rain and dust. He followed Emma up the narrow stairs to a small apartment where the walls were cracked and the furniture was old but spotless. Grace Miller was lying in bed, her face pale, a wet cloth on her forehead. When she saw who was standing at her door, she tried to sit up in shock. "Mr. Kingsley?" He nodded politely. "Your daughter came to the interview today." Tears filled Grace's eyes instantly. "Oh no, I told her not to, she shouldn't have." "She did something remarkable," he interrupted gently. "She reminded me why people deserve chances." Grace covered her face, sobbing quietly. Emma ran to her and held her hand. "Mom, he came to see you. Maybe you'll get the job." Alexander looked around the room, at the worn books on the shelf, the carefully folded clothes, the little notes Emma had drawn for her mother that said things like, "You're my hero," and "Don't get sad, Mommy." His chest tightened. He had spent his life chasing perfection, but here, in this tiny apartment, he found something much more powerful, love that refused to break. He sat down across from her. "Mrs. Miller, I read your resume. I see you've worked hard for many years. I'd like to offer you a position, not as my assistant, but as a caretaker at our headquarters. Better pay, flexible hours, full health benefits. You'll have time to recover and still be able to care for your daughter." Grace couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you." He smiled faintly. "Thank your daughter. She reminded me of something I'd forgotten, that compassion is also a strength." From that day, Grace began working at Kingsley Enterprises. Emma often visited after school, bringing cookies for everyone in the office. She became like a ray of sunshine in that cold corporate world, brightening even the toughest days. Alexander started joining them for lunch, listening to Emma's stories, laughing more than he had in years. Slowly, something inside him healed too. Months passed, and Grace recovered completely. Her dedication and warmth made her one of the most beloved staff members. One evening, as Alexander watched Emma help decorate the office for Christmas, he realized how much his life had changed. He had gone from being a man surrounded by success but empty inside, to someone who finally understood what truly mattered. When he handed Grace her new contract that day, promoting her to office supervisor. She cried again, but this time from happiness. "You saved our lives, sir," she whispered. He shook his head. "No. Your daughter saved mine." And so, the story of a little girl who came to a job interview for her sick mother became a legend at Kingsley Enterprises. People spoke about it for years, a reminder that behind every resume is a human story, behind every desperate attempt is love, and sometimes, the smallest courage can melt even the coldest heart. If this story touched your heart, if you believe kindness can change even the hardest souls, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Let's keep reminding the world that love still wins. Before we end, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if a little girl walked into your office with her mother's resume? Your answer might inspire someone else today. Because sometimes, the greatest miracles begin with just one brave step, and a child's love that refuses to give up.